It's a thought that rings true. Ancient cave dwellers drew spacecraft on the walls. It's a recurring theme. I've seen the same thing while walking late at night, and I know it's not a dream.
From Maelstrom to Manat, Boston to LA, there are people asking questions and they will not go away. But what has been seen might not be what it seems. The government's shadows dance in the sea.
If you tell the truth, they will ridicule everything you say and do. It's all part of a deception. It's a puppet master's tool. And I've seen those craft shut down the silos from 10 miles away. And there ain't nothing that the Pentagon can do. They can't make them go away.
From Maelstrom to Manat, Boston to LA, there are people asking questions and they will not go away. But what has been seen might not be what it seems.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And thank you.
You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, the Air Force is really upset today because, well, Trump is now sucking funds from the Air Force, which is, they need their funds because, you know, they got a lot of planes that are grounded because they came and get parts for it because they don't have the budget. And yet Trump now has siphoned a heck of a lot of money from the Air Force. And now they're really worried that one of our major bases in Alaska, the boiler, okay, it's on its last days. And if it goes out, they have to close the base down. Now, that base is very important because of Russia being, you know, so close by. I don't understand what is going on. Is this not that base? It's all across the world. Everything to do with the Air Force, they're siphoning a huge amounts of money. And hey, could you imagine, you know, you have this responsibility of defending our country, and it's being taken away from them. Anyway, James, are you there?
Yes, I am here. I was listening to your little report. That's kind of scary.
Well, it is. And, you know, like I said, the boiler in this one base in Alaska is on its last days. And they are contemplating maybe even shutting the base down before it, you know, dies because they can't function. But the whole base would not function without that huge boiler. And they were planning to replace it. And now they can't do that. Then there's other, you know, different spots on air bases all around the world, right, where they need, let's say, to reinforce their entrance to the base, you know, for terrorists don't, you know, come in. Right. And, you know, one of them, even their main gate is malfunctioning. All that money is stripped away all of a sudden for the wall.
I don't know what the heck it's going for, but I do know that you bring up a good point. A lot of military bases in the last 25 years, if you do research on it, a lot of them have, instead of repairing, like you're saying, they've just shut them down. And, you know, I can maybe see shutting some of them down, but some of them's important. I know Alaska is a pretty good entry point. We need some defense in Alaska. And, you know, if you got bad gates to your military base, that's not a good thing.
Well, you know how often the Russians kind of infringe on our territory, right by Alaska. You know,
Exactly.
they fly their bombers right there just to show force. And so we scramble our fighters right there, and we kind of get right next to the bombers, so the bombers turn and go back. Well, now, if that base is shut down, how long is it going to take to dispatch fighters from somewhere else? So it's scary. And it don't make logical sense. But you know what? Trump is not. I voted for Trump, okay? And I have so much mixed feelings right now. But now, because his numbers are down, in the polls, and let's say the economy because of the tariffs. Now, what did I tell you about the tariffs months ago, a year ago, that the tariffs were going to actually start hurting our country? And right now, it's cost us over 300,000 jobs so far. It's put a lot of businesses out of business because, the cost of doing business. But that's okay. Now, as of today, Trump promises a very, lucrative tax cut for middle-class people, maybe just ahead of 2020. Now, isn't that kind of strange just before election? Oh, hey, I'll do a tax cut. The last tax cut he did, people remember this, right? You saved a few bucks on your paycheck, and then you did your taxes, right? And you were expecting, I'm going to get back all, $3,500. I'm just throwing that number up. And all of a sudden, you don't get $3,500 back. You get like $800 or $900 back. Well, you had to pay back that money that you got all year long. Fortunately, the IRS was really nice about it and didn't, hit you with penalties. But I mean, come on, it's scary what's going on in our country right now.
It is scary, and I do remember you touching on this, the tariffs. It's been about a year ago you started talking about that, and it's very strategic to give tax cuts before election time. I can see where he's going with that.
Well, they're talking about the economy. We're very close to going into a recession. Seriously, all the big banks see it on the wall. They see it. It's going to happen in 2020. Something about middle of 2020, we're going to start going into a deep recession. So, all these jobs that were, created, how many people, when we go into a recession, will start losing all those jobs that were created? I don't know. I mean, the tariff thing, I could see at a point, but it went way out of control, way out of hand. And, we're paying for it. Me, you, and your neighbor down the street. And thank God he's kind of put a hold on adding this other tariff because China kind of put the olive branch and is trying to... They realize what's going on. Everybody else in the world realizes what's going on.
Yeah, and, on top of this, and you mentioned this the other night, too, a lot of places like McDonald's, they're eliminating employees. You go in, everything's electronic. You punch buttons on a machine, and you don't have nobody to even give your order to in a lot of places. So there's a lot of jobs being eliminated by machines.
Yeah, well, the reason why they put the machines up in my area, that the average pay is for minimum wage is $13 and something, and fast food like Seattle and a few other major cities in our state pass bills where all of a sudden now, if you work at McDonald's or in fast food or in a restaurant, they have to pay you $15 an hour. And a lot of these little restaurants and fast food places were just barely making it, paying $13 and something an hour. And I don't know. I don't even know how you can survive on $13 or $15 an hour, to be honest with you. But you can see it. If you're not making a big enough profit, the best way you can do it is what? Eliminate hours of employees. So if you can put a machine in and it takes away from 8 employees or so, how much money are you going to save in the long run?
Exactly. And, you mentioned restaurants and stuff. Waitresses here in the Midwest, they only give them $2.50 an hour because of tips. So how about the poor waitresses out there that make a measly $2.50 an hour out in the Midwest? They don't even get minimum wage. They get $2.50 because of tips, so they figure, they're going to make it up. Tell me that's not kind of crooked.
Well, Liz was telling me back a couple months ago, where she lives in Missouri. I said, well, law enforcement pays good. And she goes, not in Missouri. You make pretty much minimum wage. Could you imagine working in law enforcement and not making a great wage to survive? And you're working just for, near minimum wage? It's scary.
Yeah, you're putting your life on the line every day just by putting a uniform on. You take your life in the line because there's people out there that may be against cops or whatever, just shoot you. Who knows? But regardless, you're putting your life on the line every day for what, minimum wage, and it's crazy. That's ludicrous.
It is, but I don't know what's going to happen. They talk about impeachment again here the other day. The House, leader kind of like walked away when somebody asked her when she was given a, conference, with the news media. And they asked her, are you going to be doing an impeachment? She got so upset and she goes, I'm not going to talk about this again, and walked out. I don't think even impeaching somebody this close to election, it doesn't make any logical sense. I just hope the American public realizes that, that we were sold something that never really materialized.
Yeah, I think we're always sold something that never really materializes. If you look back in history, that's the unfortunate thing. We're always bait and switched. I think they all do that. Really, it's just some of them's on a bigger scale than others, and here we are.
Yeah. Oh, I know now why the Navy has been selected, right, for the Space Force. Don't think about this, right? We're stripping the Air Force of what needed funds out of their budget, right? But we're not doing that to the Navy. We're actually been trying to give the Navy more funds. So, hey, they maybe have the funds to do the Space Force. That Trump is really supportive to the Navy. He wanted more not battleships, but more aircraft carriers, more destroyers, more everything for the Navy.
So pretty much the money that we're going to eliminate giving to the Air Force, we're going to allocate it to the Navy pretty much, and it's
already been done. I mean, look at the
right.
It's just, I don't know. It just bothers me what's going on. I don't know. Maybe they just, why don't they just put the money the same way with that $2 trillion or whatever it is that's missing again from the Pentagon was talked about the other day. Maybe they just don't worry about it and go ahead and fund the Air Force and just say, hey, it's missing money from why not?
Or go back to the old days like with Richard Nixon and those guys, they'd allocate, 10,000 hammers for $10,000 a piece, and they would pay $5 a piece for them, and they would launder money that way in crazy ways.
Well, yeah, it is so true.
Go,
I mean, it is so true. I don't know. Going back to Area 51, I do wonder now if it's still being used as a place for holding and working with alien technology and aliens, because like Preston said, that there's going down there's tunnels, and then you go down another level and another level, and when you get down to the bottom levels, those are basically all alien.
I did read a report somewhere, or maybe I seen it on one of those shows I watch, but anyway, I can't remember which, but supposedly we were working with the aliens, and when one of the engineers would go down below, they would have to have an alien escort to be with them. And if you didn't, you were liable to get shot by the alien, or something bad would happen to you while they were working down there, expanding more underground bases and bunkers and whatnot.
Or they might eat you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is so scary. Because here's the thing: it's not like there's one race of aliens. There's God knows how many different ones. Like I said, I seen a report 20-some years ago. It was 168 different species that we know that was here. Now that could be wrong. Even if that was even half right, and there was just 80 different species, that was 20-some years ago. God knows how many different species